Tonight we're remembering a giant, Reverend Dr. Avery C. Alexander, a man who dedicated his entire life to faith, family, and justice. His work and memory live on in the countless people he taught and inspired. WDSU's Casey Ferran shares this special report on a man who led the way by speaking up for many and paved the way for the generations that followed.
That's Reverend Harvey, Dutch Moriel, and Papa. All three of those, they were observing Martin Luther King's birthday. I get overwhelmed when I think about the things that he's done and the impact that he's had on the lives of people all around the world.
Avis Brock is named after her grandfather, Reverend Dr. Avery C. Alexander, who raised her since the age of 2. Teaching the values of faith, education, service, and advocacy.
I remember marching with him, boycotting with him. As I look back again, those are things that I didn't know at that time. I was just hanging out with Papa.
Alexander led the struggle for civil rights in Louisiana, marching alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and participating in voter registration drives statewide.
The Motor Voter, where we can vote, register to vote remotely, was a product of his efforts.
He helped organize boycotts of businesses that did not hire blacks, including the New Orleans Public Transit Company.
He started a boycott that eventually got people working above the mop and the broom level, he used to call it.
In 1963, Alexander staged a sit-in at the basement cafeteria of City Hall.
And when they told him no, he could not eat there, he just sat down on the floor and refused to move.
He was arrested and dragged up the stairs by his heels, an image that made national headlines.
This is how I found out about that.
In the newspaper?
In the newspaper. I was 7 or 8 years old at that time.
Avis now walks up those stairs of the same building every day.
For a long time in my earlier life, it was hard to go to City Hall. All I saw was the dark day of City Hall for him. But I work at City Hall now, and I'm proud to go through those doors that 50 plus years ago we were not allowed to go through.
She says Alexander was a visionary who never stopped his crusade for justice. In another memorable moment in 1993, he was placed in a chokehold by police while protesting the Battle of Liberty Place monument.
He was trying to get that monument taken down before taking down the monuments even got popular or became political.
An ordained minister, Alexander became a politician in 1975, serving 6 terms in the House of Representatives until he died in 1999 at the age of 89.
What's missing from this community now that he is gone?
The name he gave his congregation was the Church of All People. And that was to let folks know that all people matter. We're getting way past the point where all people matter. We don't stop and care as much, and we need to do more of that. That's where he's missing.
What would he say if he saw where we are today?
He called a march on caring. He called a march on doing, on serving. There should be more done to serve, and he would be at the forefront of that.
He gave voice to the people with no voices. And when he was in Baton Rouge in the legislator, he wasn't there to be seen as a politician. He was there to be heard as a fighter for the people.
Including Chief Elwin Warhorse Gillum, chief of the Tchefuncta Nation and the Chahta Tribe. She says Alexander stood alongside her in many fights, including the fight to have Martin Luther King Jr. Day recognized as a holiday in St. Tammany Parish in the 80s.
He made me feel that I could conquer the racism of St. Tammany as a woman, because they had my back. I'm standing in front of this monument and it just gets me because he have always had my back.
Gillum is speaking of an 8-foot statue in the courtyard of University Medical Center, a portion of which bears his name, a monument erected for a man who broke down barriers and led the way for many in his stand for justice.
He used to always say that, Avis, when I die, ain't nobody gonna remember me. But I find that there's still a lot of love, a lot of people in the community who still embrace him, a lot of people who still respect his name.
A name that's honored not only on a hospital, but a school and a highway for many more to know his legacy. Casey Ferrand, WDSU News.